another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate, beating the game at the last second Final Fantasy podcast. I'm your host, Caleb.
I am Joe.
And
I did not beat the game at the last second.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about what exactly happened and why it took me so long to beat this game, but...
Okay.
This game, of course, is Final Fantasy Adventure, or Sword of Mana, or Adventures of Mana, or what they should have called it, Seed of Mana. Because there's a part at the very end of the game where she says, "I am the Seed of Mana." And I was like, that would have been a sweet name. But no.
I don't think so.
You don't dig the Seed of Mana?
Nah, anything with the word seed... I'm pretty good. I'm good.
Yeah, good without.
I think you guys have ruined that for me.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We definitely have. So, I started this game, I think like a week and a half ago, and I was just playing it on lunch and, just kind of ticking away at it slowly. And then finally I realized, I really need to sit down and beat this thing. So, I knocked out most of it in the last couple days, and then last night I played a big chunk of the game, so thankfully I finished it in time, and we could be here today to review Final Fantasy Adventure. So let's get into the development of this game, though. So... Final Fantasy Adventure is a Final Fantasy spin-off game developed and published by Square for the Nintendo Game Boy on June 28, 1991 in Japan and November of 1991 in the U.S. Square actually trademarked the Seiken Densetsu in 1989 and intended to use it for a project titled The Emergence of Excalibur for the Famicom. The game was initially expected to be placed on 5 floppy disks, which would have made it one of the biggest titles for the Famicom up to that point in time. So it was initially going to be this huge project. It was like super crazy, and they had like all these big ideas for it. So Square solicited pre-orders for this game, but management canceled the project before it advanced beyond early development and sent customers a letter telling them that their pre-order was canceled and refunding the purchase. Now, the cool thing about this letter they sent out is that it also suggested that the customers consider placing an order on another similar upcoming game titled Final Fantasy. So this project would be shelved for years, and once Final Fantasy III was released in 1990, Square offered Koichi Ishii, who is kind of an awesome guy behind the scenes. He directed Final Fantasy XI and Final Fantasy XI's Rise of the Xylart expansion, and he's done like almost all of the Mana games, at least directing and producing those as well. So he's done a shitload of stuff.
Wow.
But they gave him a project on a spin-off game, and it was initially titled Gemma Knights, which, yes, another fucking title for this game. But was later released in Japan as Seiken Densetsu Final Fantasy Gaiden. And, of course, the game was also later released for phones and is included in the Mana series collection in Japan for the Nintendo Switch. I'm super jealous that we don't have that yet, by the way. It's like every Mana game on the Switch. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, shit.
I know.
Are we going to get that at some point? Because that would make our show easier.
I certainly hope so. It's all in Japanese, though, so, like, we could play it, but...
No.
It's just not... Yeah. So the game features gameplay similar to The Legend of Zelda, but adds multiple role-playing aspects.
You think? Sorry.
And another cool thing is that this game and also Final Fantasy Mystic Quest were actually the first Final Fantasy games to be released in Europe. So the first remake they made of this game in 2003 was titled Sword of Mana and changed the story and many of the gameplay aspects, but Joe and I decided that we were going to play the original and also the true remake of it on the mobile phone for me.
The newest remake.
Yeah, and that one sort of takes the same story, so it doesn't do anything with it. It just kind of enhances it graphically. In some ways, and in other ways, it great game breaks graphically. So we'll fucking talk about that later. Yeah. So the game's story was written by Ichi and also by Yoshinori Kitase. So Ichi created most of the characters and stuff, and Kitase actually wrote most of the game's script. So,
did he write the part where you have to kill the girl?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
kind of dark, but
That sounds like a Kitase move.
Yeah. So the game was met with positive critical responses and went on to sell around 700 copies worldwide. It has around a 79.07 on the game aggregator Game Rankings, and that is based on 7 critical reviews of the game. So that's what we got.
So this has been a well-reviewed game, is what you're saying.
Overall, yeah. I mean, it's about an 80%, so...
7 people having reviewed this thing.
It is an old ass game though, dude. It came out almost before you did. It's an old ass fucking game. FF3 was the thing around this time. So this is crazy. They had a spin-off for Final Fantasy after the 3rd Final Fantasy.
Well, it's also this one. Sorry for the yawn, guys. This one was, I think this was the first FF spinoff.
Yeah.
Because Mystic Quest was a little later, and also, Schweiss, I know something about this. I think this game was titled Mystic Quest in Europe.
Yeah.
And they titled Mystic Quest something else in Europe.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's why I was...
just to add to the confusion of this titling.
Yeah. That's why I was kind of freaking out the other day, because I was like, wait a minute. I typed in Final Fantasy Adventure into How Long to Beat, and Mystic Quest is here. Like, what the fuck? Is Mystic Quest the same game and we just don't know? This whole time we've just been misled? No. The answer is no, and apparently it's because it was released as Mystic Quest in Europe. God.
Yeah. And this one is a Final Fantasy game. So, the literal title was Holy Sword Legend Final Fantasy Side Story. That was its title in Japan, so we do have to play it.
Yeah. And it's a good introduction to the Mana series. I mean, this title's success, albeit not as good as Final Fantasy, did spawn an entire series of games, so...
Yeah. There you go. I heard someone on YouTube call it Mana Zero. It's not really a super Mana game, but it's like a proto Mana. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So this game is just in a weird in-between world.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, the guy who directed it, he is the dude who did all the Mana games, pretty much, so... Mm-hmm. It has some of the same aspects, but I mean, it sells a lot of Final Fantasy things in it as well. I mean, you got the Moogles, you've got, your Chocobo and stuff. So it's not quite its own thing yet. But soon, the next Mana game has nothing to do with Final Fantasy, apparently.
Huh? Nice.
But, that's it for the development of the game. So let's talk about the plot. So, our hero, his name's Sumo, is a prisoner who's been forced to fight.
His name's Joe, by the way.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, very clearly there was no name given in my version. And
oh, yeah, mine said Sumo. That was his name.
Named him Joe. Sumo, I don't know, man. Doesn't ring quite the same bell as Joe.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
It is a strange name for a man to have, Sumo,
Yeah, and he's not, big.
Yeah, he's just kind of regular,
And his name's Sumo? Come on.
I know. It's fucked up, but whatever. Yeah. So, our hero is imprisoned by the Dark Lord, and he's forced to fight. And one day he actually finds out through one of his buddies what the Dark Lord wants to do, and he seeks out a knight named Bogard. And he's basically, the Dark Lord's trying to take over get access to the mana tree, which is essentially the Yggdrasil tree, which we see in a ton of Final Fantasy games, to be honest. This theme of a big ass tree that controls life itself. something we've seen in 9, 13, sequels, 12, stuff like that. Or not 12, but there are some lore around
There's
there.
even a deadly space tree in the form of X-Death.
Yeah, that's right, FF5. That's the one I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of the Life of Tree from 9. You mentioned that one.
Yeah. So,
Schweiss, it's funny. I'm hearing you start to talk about the story, and I got to tell you, there ain't much in the version that I played. So you're saying he's a prisoner of the Dark Lord? Literally, like the title screen will say, Joe is a prisoner of the Dark Lord, and then it'll cut to me fighting someone.
yeah, it was a bear in my version. It wasn't even a person.
I would leave, and then some guy would go, "We're all imprisoned here. You should go seek a knight named Bogard." So, yeah. Just so you know, the dialogue in the original version, which I played, it's real sparse. It's real utilitarian. I would say. Go ahead.
It's not the worst thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we find out the Dark Lord is trying to find a key to the Mana Sanctuary to control the Mana Tree, which is, the energy that contains life or sustains life. So we meet up with Fuji, who is our heroine of the story, and kind of become fast friends with her, and we find out
her name is Anne, by the way.
That's such a boring name.
It's 4 letters, and that's the name I came up with. It's Anne.
Is that all you had, is 4 letters?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Jeez, I had a ton.
That's enough for Fuji. If I decided to name my character Fuji.
Yeah.
Which, not ready for.
No, I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have ever come up with that name myself.
Yeah. Supporting characters have longer names.
They do, yeah. They do.
It's bullshit.
So we end up finding Bogard, and he sends us to meet another dude named Sibba. And while we're searching for Sibba, Fuji ends up getting kidnapped. And with the aid of a mysterious red mage-like man in my version, Sumo is reunited with Fuji. When we meet up with that Sibba dude, he shows us a message left by Fuji's mother that reveals her to be a descendant of the Guardians of the Mana Tree. And the pendant that she wears is actually the key to accessing the tree.
So you're saying she's an ancient?
Pretty much, yeah. She's an ancient from Final Fantasy VII. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once the mysterious man, our red mage bro, finds out that Fuji has the pendant, he reveals himself to be Julius, who is the Dark Lord's advisor, and kidnaps her again. So
Orange Julius.
That's right, Orange Julius. Yeah. So we try to rescue her, and we actually end up getting knocked off of Julius's airship. But right before we fall, we get the pendant, and then we fall to our death, right? But no, we fall, and just like in FF7, we land into someone's roof, we slam into the roof, and we survive the fucking fall. So that's something that they keep coming back to. It's funny looking at this game, there are a lot of little things that they've taken from Final Fantasy Adventure and used in other titles, like, the whole Ancients plot line, the guy falling through the roof. It just seems like they borrow a lot from this game, which is odd because it's a spin-off, but whatever.
Well, it's not odd because it's Kitase, who was kind of the main guy in charge of 7. So I see a lot of that. I could see he might have repeated himself a little bit.
Yeah. So we meet up with a girl named Amanda, who is another escapee from the prison, and she actually steals the pendant to win her brother's freedom. And it's funny because you rescue this guy. Her brother's name is Lester, and you rescue him, and he actually gets turned into a parrot, which is really weird. But you go with Amanda and you confront a Medusa, basically, and you kill it for its tears, which is supposed to break the spell that Lester is inflicted with, the paraditis or whatever that he happens to have. So you end up killing the Medusa, but you find out Amanda is actually infected by the attack, which is going to turn her into one herself. And this is where the story gets kind of fucked up. Like, she's like, oh, you're going to have to kill me or I'm going to turn into one of them. And my brother, you gotta get this to him to cure him, but I don't want to be this evil thing. And so, I mean, I immediately just slashed her. Like, I didn't take a second to think about it. I was like, all right, well, I guess it's got to be done. And so I was
surprised that I was forced to kill someone in this game.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, we don't really ever do that in Final Fantasy, but it just straight up
made her a blood sacrifice or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how. It was because she looked it in the eye. Is that right?
Yeah. It caught her. Yeah.
So, I guess our character never had that issue.
No, apparently not.
I got damage dealt from the lady somehow. I think at the end of the game, I turn into a Medusa after the credits.
Yeah, you're like, shit, I was sick the whole time. Yeah.
I mean, I assume I think the game's only like 3 more hours after this, so, maybe it hadn't happened yet.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
So once you take her tears back to, you bottle up this guy's sister's tears, and you pour them on him,
You do.
and he turns from a parrot back into a real boy, and he actually goes off and avenges his sister's death by killing the mayor of the town who stole the pendant from you, and we actually find out then that he gave the pendant to the Dark Lord. So this is when we have to go confront and fight the Dark Lord, and we, of course, kick his ass. But we discover that Fuji has been under Julius's mind control and actually already opened up the entrance to the mana tree. Julius also reveals that he's the last survivor of the Vandal Empire who attempted to control the mana tree years ago and kicks your ass. So Julius is like a big baddie at this point. He kind of he lays the beat down on you like over and over again in the story, and he just one-shots you too. He just casts this nuke spell as it is in yours, but for me it's just flare. I think nuke is a much more fun name. But
yeah, I was getting ready to talk about that. I'll talk about that in gameplay.
Yeah, so once your guy kind of realizes that he has no chance to fight Julius, basically. He's never going to be able to beat him. He finds out from Sibba that there's an ancient and super powerful sword called Excalibur. So we get sent on this big mission to go find Excalibur, but you find some rusty-ass hand-me-down instead. And that's when you find out that...
the rusty sword?
Yeah, the rusty sword. And you find out that is Excalibur, but it'll only reveal its true strength whenever it finds someone that's worthy of it. So that's when we raise the Dime Tower, which I thought was a weird-ass name. At least that's what it's called in my version, this Dime Tower.
That doesn't sound right to me, but okay, yeah.
No, yeah, I'm like, man, where's the Nickel City in here? You got Dime Tower, Nickel City, Quarter Town, Penny Plains. I don't know. It was a really fucking weird name. And I'm pretty sure it was more than 10 floors, so what the fuck? So anyway, we raise that to reach the Mana Sanctuary, and we meet up with a fun little robot whose name is Marcy. And once you reach the top, and I totally called this, the tower begins to collapse, and Marcy sacrifices himself by throwing the hero across. And I was like, man, I think this robot's going to die soon, so I'm going to like heal myself up completely and just have this thing give me all my mana back a couple more times. Because I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah. I think it wanted to stay with the ship, basically, as it was sinking.
Yeah, what it was is the robot was like, in my version it was like he was like, hey, I'll throw you across and then I'll use my thrusters to fly across with you, and then he chucks me, and then he's like, yeah, I mean, about that, these thrusters, they've been broken for a long ass time, so
Okay, that's a change.
I'm just gonna fucking die here.
Yeah, in my version, he said he wanted to stay with the tower because that was his home.
Yeah, he said at the end though, he did say that like his mission was to stay there until he was told otherwise. So then he died. And of course, in mine, I don't know if yours had this, but you remember that scene from Doctor Strangelove where the guy like has to push the nuke out manually and he's riding it down the whole time?
Yes.
It was basically that with the robot, it like zoomed in and the robot suddenly had the cowboy hat. It was riding the roof down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's only in your version.
Yeah, no, I'm just fucking with you. It's, my glitchy ass version of the game had a sweet little extra there, but no. Sad. Poor Marcy died. It's all over. So once we pass the sword's trials and obtain Excalibur, we finally find and confront and slaughter Julius at the mana tree. But the unfortunate thing is that this actually kills the mana tree. The mana tree eventually dies off from this. And then we find out that Fuji's mother was the mana tree. And she said, like, we can plant ourselves and become the mana tree. And then essentially she tells her daughter that, and she disappears, and then Fuji's like, you know what? We're doing this thing. I'm going to become the next mana tree, and I need you to guard me. And my guy agrees, and she turns into the fucking tree, and that's how the game ends. I mean, your guy kind of goes around, and that's it.
So, in your version, your guy guards the mana tree. I have a line for line. It's because it's only like 8 lines long, the ending cutscene here. But it's your hero saying, hey, everything will be alright now that you're going to be a tree. And this is my favorite line ever, and I tweeted it out because it's so amazing. This is word for word, copied and pasted from the game script. Don't worry, I will be here as long as you guard me from the evil.
Wow.
I was dying. I will be here as long as you protect me from the evil.
It's almost, and the way you wrote it on that tweet, it almost looked like the person was winded. Like she had just ran up a flight of stairs, or your guy ran up a flight of stairs, like, don't worry, I'll protect you from evil.
But I think it's him saying it to her. So I'm confused about that, but it's 2 text box with a ... in the middle. That's what it is. So don't worry, I'll be here as long as ... you guard me from the evil.
God.
It's one of 2 things that made me laugh out loud. The other one that made me laugh out loud is in order to solve a puzzle, which I would have never been able to solve without a guide. I had to find a certain type of magic. And this magic in my game was called nuke magic. Nuke, nuke magic. So the magic to destroy all in nuclear destruction.
Yeah.
I had to blow up a bush with it, or a crystal thing, I think, with a nuclear bomb magic in order to open the fucking thing. But yeah, when I saw received the magic book of nuke,
Yeah.
learned Nuke. That also made me die. So the story it's fine. I have a feeling the translation in your and my version, that they probably differ pretty greatly. You probably don't have a line that says "guard me from the evil."
No.
And so yeah, and everything on mine is pretty on the nose. It was something I noticed. I would walk into a town and it'll say, "Go here to talk to this guy," basically every time you talk to a person. So there was no characterization. It was just all business for everybody in town.
Yeah.
And then of course we had lines like "guard me from the evil." It's not evil, all evil. It's just the evil. You gotta guard me from the evil. So yeah, the the writing in my... Now this was a Game Boy version. It was probably rushed pretty quickly as far as the translation was concerned. And it might not have had the greatest source material, to be fair. But considering all that, I guess it has a better story than FF1.
Yeah.
And probably FF2. And FF3. But it's we're back to very old school Final Fantasy here. And it's very clear. And it's kind of fun. But yeah, my version didn't have much. Yours is the newest remake. Was it like all crazy? Did it have like cutscenes or anything like that?
No, no cutscenes in my version. It was pretty straight up. I mean, it had like minor cutscenes, but it used in-game graphics and things like that. So not really. And the story was very simple. It was a very easy story to follow for the most part. The figuring out where to go next wasn't always easy to follow in my version because it doesn't really tell you jack shit. It just says, "Hey, go south." And I'm like, okay, how fucking far south do I have to go? But as far as the story and cutscenes and stuff are concerned, it was all just in-game graphics. It didn't go crazy high def like we're used to with Final Fantasy. When we get to a cutscene, it was just, cutscene just started up. Yeah, I don't know. I think the story in this one's fine. I think it's very, very simple. And like you said, it is kind of like getting back into the old school Final Fantasy, the old school RPGs. And I did enjoy it a little bit more than some of the earlier Final Fantasies. Like, I liked the character sacrifices in it. I thought they were...
yeah, when he killed the one girl that was going to be the Medusa, I thought, that was pretty great, and I don't think there's anything in the first 3 Final Fantasy games that's really on that level.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised at kind of the leap that there was storytelling-wise on this Game Boy game.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. Other than that, I mean, it was pretty standard. We had a clear idea who the bad guy was the whole time, and I feel like figuring out like the stuff about the mana tree when you're in that final dungeon was pretty cool, and I thought it was well told overall.
Figuring out? Sorry, what does that mean in yours?
Oh, in mine, there were like little tombstone like writings on the wall, I guess, and I would just go up to them and read them, and it would talk about like what the tree means, and talk about how like it's the source of all life, and that it's going to be under attack. And that people
must
have
been nice.
Yeah.
There was almost no information on that tree in my game.
Oh.
In fact, I just kind of had to figure that it was like a tree of life, basically, or had served a similar function as the Life Tree did in 9, or IFA, or however you're supposed to say that one. But yeah, I didn't have any information on that. That must have been nice choice.
Yeah,
a little bit more.
It was pretty good,
3-dimensionality in your game. I guess in a way though, you paid for it because I played this game on a cartridge on a Retron 5. which is a fantastic way to play this game, by the way. The Retrons, it like does graphical enhancements. You can see the original version if you want. You can switch to it. But I got mine on like Super Eagle mode is what it's called. And it just looks amazing for a Game Boy game. It like just enhances everything, like adds contrast.
Oh, nice.
Smooths out the graphics. I don't know how they do it, but it's fantastic. And so like I was able to play this on that cartridge version. I had no problems whatsoever. I highly recommend that as a way to play this game. And also there were save states, which thank God I had those.
Yeah, well, you can save at any point in the original one, too.
You can save... Oh, can you save at any point? I never tried to save in a dungeon.
Yeah, the only time you can't save, I guess, is like when you're at a boss or like in that area that the boss was in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it won't let you save
that's
there,
interesting.
but that's about it.
Well, shit. I guess I could have done it the legit way.
Yeah, it's basically a save state at that point.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I never ran into a single problem. I know that in my version, if you didn't get a certain weapon that can like crush the walls open, did you get that one?
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah. If you don't get that and I guess you can screw yourself out of the last area where you're locked out of the rest of the world. Apparently there can be a problem in my version, but like if you didn't get enough keys, because you need like 5 keys.
Yeah.
For the final dungeon.
Yeah, okay, so...
Sorry, should we just move on to gameplay?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Go ahead.
So the game plays exactly like The Legend of Zelda, just sloppier, basically, which is unfortunate because there are a lot of great things in this game that make me want to like it more than Legend of Zelda. I love the fact that you get to choose how you upgrade your character. I think that's awesome. I was like so stoked on that the moment I opened up the level up screen, and I was like, whoa, I can choose to add HP. Because it gives you like 4 classes, basically, and it's warrior, mage, fighter, something like that, and then cleric, basically. So, and they each add to your 4 different stats that you have. You have strength, intelligence, like hit points, and then your mind or something like that. And that's based on like, that gives you extra healing and like speeds up your limit gauge. And I was like really excited about that. I was like, wow, this is great. You know, this is just like Legend of Zelda, but better in so many ways. And then I started playing it a little more, and I was like, you know, the top down is kind of whatever. In my version, the controls are kind of god awful, to be honest, because it's like a touch screen thing, and oh my god, when you're trying to like fucking do just about anything with the touch screen, it can be quite impossible. But the game has plenty of different weapons, numerous enemies. Certain weapons work better against certain enemies. Certain weapons won't do anything to a lot of enemies. So there's like a reason to keep your mithril sword around, for example, because it'll hit most things. And it kind of adds a level of depth that Zelda did have to some extent, but this game expands upon greatly. It's a top-down view. It's almost entirely an action-adventure, for sure. But
yeah, when we say Legend of Zelda, we literally mean the Legend of Zelda, the original one.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it plays like really any of the other ones. Yeah, it was honestly it was the exact same thing as Legend of Zelda, but the map in my version was not as free roaming. So unlike in Legend of Zelda, you're really blocked off, and you're kind of on a, whether or not you know it, you're kind of on a on a certain track in order to find the next area or dungeon to go through. So it's not quite the same, because Legend of Zelda, one of the big things with that one is that it's like a big open world, and it's like you can go wherever you want, basically, as long as you have the power to get to the next area.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's definitely... it's more linear. It's not totally linear, but it's more linear than Legend of Zelda ever was. Gameplay-wise, for me, just on the old-school controls and stuff like that, it was pretty much about the same. Only, and this could have been me getting used to the Retron 5 controller, but it did feel like the controls were a little bit clunkier than what Zelda was, which I played pretty recently. But it was about the same. It was just kind of slashing, and then you had these special charge-up things. And different types of weapons. And you had to... In Zelda, you only have the sword, really, I think, and the arrow. But in this one, you get, like, a sword, you get, like, a chain mace thing. So in that way, I guess it's more expanded than Zelda ever was.
Yeah, and also you can interact with the world a little bit more. In Zelda, basically, it was pushing rocks and burning bushes. In this one, you have, like, certain trees that you can cut down with your axe. You can, like... scythe your way through plants to get to areas.
You can take a pickaxe to the walls instead of a bomb. You got to take a pickaxe to it, or you can take the giant. What is it? What's the big thing with the ball on the end of it? Ball and chain.
Well, it's usually a morning star, but I think they called it something else.
Oh, they called it Star. That's all.
Oh, was it Star for you? Okay.
Yeah. And you could take that and smash the walls with it, which was nice at a certain point, because then you didn't need the Maddox, I think is what it was called in my version, in your inventory. And you could just kind of dump those. In the first half of the game, you need those like crazy.
Yeah. And the game is really fucking weird in a lot of ways, because you'll be going through these dungeons, and you'll run out of pickaxes, and you'll have to leave the dungeon, go back to town, buy a set of pickaxes, come back in. All the walls that you pickaxed are now, like, repaired suddenly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never had to do that.
Jesus Christ, I did. Oh, yes.
I only ran into one problem, and it was in the final dungeon. And I did not have enough keys. And someone said that you can fuck yourself out of something if you didn't have keys in this game. Like, I heard that on a review. So I checked out some reviews before I played the game, because I was waiting for my fucking cartridge, and I was like excited for it. But the skeletons, this is for anybody who gets stuck at the end, the skeletons have a very small chance of dropping keys. And in my version of the game, you could just leave a room, come back into a room, and most of the rooms will just reload with a random enemy. Of a certain type, random enemy amount. And so I found there was one room with skeleton dudes in it, and I just kept going in and out and then fighting the skeleton dudes until they dropped me some keys.
Oh, nice.
I leveled up a few times waiting for keys on them. But yeah, I eventually did get a drop on it, and I was very happy, because I had save stated myself in a do not return spot.
Yeah. I didn't run into that necessarily, but I did run out of Maddox, so my pickaxes were gone, and I was like, fucking God, dude. And so I had to leave and then come back in. But I think the worst thing that happened to me was I decided very early on that I didn't care about magic in this game, because basically nothing does any damage to you ever in this game.
Wow.
Like, I don't get hit.
An opposite experience. Go ahead.
I don't get hit for shit in this game, right? So I'm like all strength, all HP. I'm just a tank, damage dealing motherfucker, right? And it was going great until I got to this part that was just like Metal Gear Solid with the Nikita gun, or the Nikita, where you have to launch a ball of ice or a shard of ice in my version. And you have to like fucking move it down this corridor and like around turns and stuff. And then you have to hit one of these fucking monsters and turn him into a snowman.
That's right.
That will like, the snowman is like what activates the door to open up. And that's something that like, Jesus Christ, God forbid you don't realize you got to turn people into snowmen in this fucking game, because it doesn't tell you that ever.
Stuck there for a while because I didn't realize when I shot that shit that I could control it. I only ever just like shot that forward, and I was so confused, and I had to look up like what the fuck.
Yeah, I had to use an elixir at that point because I ran out of magic, and I was like, I'm not going back.
Oh wow!
I'm not leaving this fucking dungeon. So like I threw on the elixir and then launched it. But the thing that really pisses me off, in my version of the game at least, when you start casting magic, it takes the MP away from you immediately. So if somebody hits you and interrupts you, that MP's gone. I only have 5 fucking MP in this game. Like, I don't have much. So when I get smacked and I lose one, it's a big fucking deal. So that part was making me really pissed off. And then there was another part, man, oh my God. So a fucking snowman part again. The snowman parts I hate in this goddamn game.
Yeah, you turn enemies into snowmen and you can push them to be like triggers on
these traps.
Yeah.
They activate these switches and open up like different paths, right? So first off, I walk into the room. There's like one knight guy, and then a couple like little imp dudes. So I kill everything in there, and then I realize that there are those little switches, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is an extra area. Whatever, I'll come back. I go and explore the rest of the dungeon. I'm like, shit, that one area is not the extra area. That's the area I need to go to. So I leave. I come back in, and in my version, you have to leave the entire dungeon for them to like respawn. Fully, at least. So I had to go downstairs and then go back upstairs. And I walk in there, and there's only one fucking knight. And I'm like, okay, there's one knight. Maybe I only need one to push on the switch, and the other one I can like... Because there are some switches where you can move the beast off of the switch and then onto another switch.
Yeah. And
it counts it. This room doesn't count it. So I'm like, okay. So you're telling me right now I have to have 2 knights... turn to ice, turn to snowmen, and push them onto these switches, and you give me one fucking knight? I'm like, come on, game. What the fuck, man?
Wow, it randomly gave you one.
Yeah.
That's awful.
I'm kind of pissed off at this point. I'm like, okay, fine, fuck it, whatever. I'll leave and come back. And mind you, my mana is still tiny. So, like, I wasted mana both times on this shit. And I'm like, fuck it. And I'll come back in. So I come back in. There's 2 knights. I'm like, sweet. 2 knights. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be so easy. I turn them to snowmen, and then knowing that when you smack a snowman, it falls to pieces and they're dead, I like back away from the bad guys, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to kill these 2 imp guys that are flying around because they're pissing me off, you know? They're doing like 1 damage every 10 or 15 seconds and interrupting my progress with pushing the snowman. So I'm kind of pissed off at him, right? So I kill the first imp, no problem. Second imp, I'm like kind of close to one of the snowmen, and I'm like, I don't know, I'll back up. And I try to back up, and he smacks me, and I move towards the snowman, and as I'm moving towards it, I hit the attack thing and just cut the snowman in half, and I'm like, fuck! I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, this fucking game, it doesn't even give me the right amount of dudes. It fucking makes the snowman made of, like, paper. I scythe the snowman to death, and I gotta fucking leave again and come back into this fucking room again, man. I'm like, Jesus Christ, why? Why is this part of this game? Like, oh my God.
It's the evil.
It's
after you.
That is very evil, and it was after me. So, I mean, the puzzles in the game are pretty fun. Overall, I don't like the snowman thing because it doesn't fucking tell you anything. I like figured it out because I turned someone to snow once, and then I was like, maybe I had to push a beast onto the tile, and then it's like, remember that snowman thing? Yeah, you have to do that all the time in the game. So, like, I don't know who came up with snowman switches, but they're terrible in this universe.
They are the evil.
Yeah.
So yeah, I forgot about the snowman swing. Thank you for bringing that up. Bizarre design choice, bizarre puzzle thing, and the one where you have to do the Metal Gear Solid bullshit.
Oh shit!
That one was frustrating as shit. Just because it's like the weird like corner thing you had to do.
Yeah, and like it would just like hit the side, and I'm like, okay, the animation wasn't touching the wall, so why the fuck did it hit the wall? I'm like, oh my god, dude. And then there's one asshole that's in your way. So there's like pre-snowman guy that's like gonna be your snowman. And then there's like other snowman guy who's just in the fucking way, right? And I hit him first because he's in the way like indefinitely, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't have the mana to be dealing with this fucking part in this game right now. Like, get out of the way!
So you're telling me you don't want to build a snowman?
No.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, I want to destroy the snowman. So I tagged him, and then I had to move past him the second time, which is like, on the touch screen, it is, oh my god, dude.
Dude,
oh my god.
I can't even imagine what touchscreen controls in that part would be.
That part, and then the part where you're sliding down the ice and you have to like throw your fucking like, it's not the sickle, but it's the like hammer on a fucking string thing or whatever it is.
No.
You have to throw that out and grab the one. That was so painstaking because I had
a couple parts where you're on like minecart carnage and you're just being like, take the lawn, and you gotta use a chain to get yourself off of the minecart. And you gotta be, for mine, it was just like hammer that button and wait until it catches. But for you,
oh no, it's not.
I bet that was fun.
The thing is one of them is so far away that I have to do like a fully charged attack for the extra length. And like I would come into that room and I would just like, there were times when there would be some asshole on the ice, so I'd get smacked right before I came into the room, so I was still recoiling from my wound, and so I would miss it. There were other times where I'd come into the room, there'd be a guy there, smack me, so I'd fucking miss it. And then the one time I finally grabbed one, I grabbed the wrong one, and I'm like, oh my god. So that part took me like 15 minutes of just sliding around on the fucking ice, just trying to get my timing down, and it's just, oh my god, dude. The touch screen was so fucking abysmal in that part.
Oh shit!
And oh man, yeah. So that was something, and
that was the evil.
That was the evil, yeah. And he needs to protect her from that shit. He needs to protect all of us from that shit. But oh man, and then the other thing that kept happening in my version of this fucking game, dude. Of this fucking game. So whenever I found this early, because there was a fight where someone would do an AoE attack and it was like a flame attack. Anytime there's a fire attack in your version of the game, in my version, it crashes the game. It crashes it. It says Adventure of Mana has stopped working. Would you like to reload the app? So, yeah. So I spent about an hour on the second to last dragon in this game, the guy before the undead dragon, because I had to wait for the RNG to allow me to kill his ass before he did his flame attack.
Wow.
Every flame attack in this game will crash.
I was on that guy for a while. I can't even imagine. Of course, people would actually do damage to me in this game, but I can't even imagine, like, oh, he can't spit fire at all, or else you're fucked?
Yeah, it breaks the game. It breaks the game every time. The Lich, or not the Lich guy, there was an undead guy earlier on that had a similar style of attack. It broke it on there too. And then I was like, what the fuck is going on with this fucking game? You know, and I went onto the Google Play Store and I looked at some of the reviews, and it's a thing. Like, the game just stops working, and I'm like, oh my fucking god. Like, I'm 7 hours into this fucking thing, and I'm on this boss who keeps doing this attack that breaks the fucking game. I'm like, it's not even a glitch. It's just shitty. Like, it's not some weird, like, oh, I walked through a wall, the game broke. It's no, the game tried to do an attack, and the game fucking shit itself. It turned itself inside out. And I was getting so fucking mad, man, because earlier I was like, I just need to finish this, but this fucking dragon guy is obsessed with his fire attack. It's like all he wants to do.
It was a dragon.
I know.
That's literally all he did in my version. He just moves around and spits fire.
And you know what? You know what the sad thing was? When I finally beat him, I did I think I did 8. When you have the sword and you do a fully charged attack and he launches forward and then launches back. I did that 6 to 8 times and he died. I had to hit him 12 times and he was dead. And then I went on to the next boss, the zombie dragon. I got hit maybe for 20 HP, and I killed him. And then I went to the final boss, and I didn't even get touched one of the fights. And the other fight, I lost 30 health. I fucking annihilated this fucking game, man. I had more crashes than I did deaths by 10-fold. At least. Because I think I died twice in this game. But
I died a lot.
The game crashed at least 50 times on me. At least, man. And I'm like, I just want to play this. I want to have fun, but it won't fucking let me. It's just a piece of shit. And that's how it is in the Play Store too. It's they're like, oh, great port of a great game, and then the review below, it's like, Jesus Christ, I can't fucking beat this guy. I can never beat this guy. The game just keeps fucking crashing on me. Why? And then it's like, oh, classic port of a fantastic game, and it's got to the Lich guy. Wish I could play more, but I can't because the game's breaking. And I feel bad for these people because for me it was, it's fucking Friday night. We're reviewing it Sunday. I'm like, I can't go buy another copy of this game. I'm already halfway through this game. I'm not going to go do it again. It's just not going to happen. Shit. And so I had to fucking troubleshoot and figure out exactly what was happening. And at first I was like, maybe I can make the dragon off screen and it won't crash the game. That didn't work. Maybe certain attack patterns of mine will keep him from doing that attack. That didn't work. And really what it all boiled down to was, thank God I put every single fucking stat that I owned into my strength and my HP, or I would have been fucked.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was 4 bosses that were that way.
Oh, fuck, dude. That's awful. I had a hard time in this game because the game for me was difficult. Part of it is just I haven't played a game like this in a while, and I'm no good at it. Part of it could have been the Retron controller, which to me feels a little inaccurate in comparison to the game itself. But yeah. That could just be me just being shitty at an action game, an old school action game. Yeah,
Zelda's hard. And the thing I noticed about when I played Legend of Zelda, when I played it on the Wii, and I had my little controller, my classic controller, it was hell on earth. But when I downloaded it again for 3DS and played it on there, it was great. So the controller has a huge factor in things, for sure.
And part of me wanted to go get an original controller, but I didn't have the money for it, because you can use those on the ports on this thing.
Oh, nice.
I could use an NES controller on it. But I didn't do that. I used the Retron 5's controller, and I think the directional pad on the Retron 5 is super sensitive. So even though I wasn't holding down the button, or I was trying to do that tappy thing, which I found out was the key to playing the original Zelda, even if I tried doing that, I was no good at it. It would seem to hold down, and I would go forward. But yeah, I would get my butt handed to me. But luckily for save states, there was a certain point where in the second half of the game with the bosses, I would hit the bosses as many times as I could without getting health beaten, and then I would do a save state, and then I would just keep going and break him down slowly. I did that with I want to say the zombie dragon was the hardest dragon for me, and then the Lich was a fucking asshole for me. The final boss was a lot easier than everybody else though, because it was just a tree rotating around, but.
Yeah.
The one girl was always healing you. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting part of the game. It's pretty basic RPG stuff, I mean, besides like the stats go, like this is way better leveling up system than what they did with the FF2.
Oh yeah, it's also better than Zelda's. Like I like the leveling system a lot in this game. I think it's really fucking cool.
It is really good. And oh shit, I was about to say something.
Companions.
Thank you. Yeah, each of the unique people that can follow you throughout your game. You can use the ask function, ASK, in my version, and
it's actually ass in mine, ASS. But go ahead.
Can't follow that one. You beat me. Yeah, so they each have a unique thing that they can do for you. One will heal your mana, one will heal you. There was another one that would... What the hell did he do? It's one that did something else.
One of them, I think one cured your like status ailments.
Okay, yeah, there was one that I didn't use at all, so that must have been that one. And then there was one that also, there's the Chocobo, and you ask the Chocobo, and you'll be on the Chocobo, walking around or being on water or whatever, because Chocobos walk on water in this game.
Yeah, well, no, it's
There's
only
no
after
boats.
It's only after you find out your Chocobo's legs have been shot. And the fucking guy in one of the towns gives him metal legs. That's what happens. He's like, you know what? Your Chocobo's legs were kind of not working out, so I turned him into Mechabo.
Oh, that's right.
He's a fucking mech Chocobo. I'm like, God, dude, this is...
He was going to call him, like, Robo Chocobo or something like that.
Robobo.
Robo.
Come on, Robobo. That sounds like a really like racist, like Japanese thing, like Robobo. That's what it was, man. They gave him metal legs, and he fucking suddenly could run on water.
Yeah, the Terminator Chocobo.
Yeah. Come with me if you want to float.
But it's metal.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It still doesn't make any sense. Why is he able to be on the water?
Yeah, I'm like, you'd think he'd weigh more. Like, he doesn't have, like, motors in his feet, so he's just like a boat or anything. He's, fuck it, man. Like, all right, whatever, we're doing this.
Well, boats stay afloat even if they're metal by how wide they are, basically.
Yeah, and they're like, this fucker's not.
He doesn't have boat legs.
Yeah, there's no propeller other than his, like, running.
So, no, apparently he also made him Christ.
Yes,
when he turned his legs into, like, Robo Choco legs.
Yeah, Robobo is actually the protagonist here. He's the one that saved.
Schweiss, I'm not kidding you, that is my favorite new word from this show. Because I can't remember what it actually was. Robobo is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that part, kind of the exploring. The one part I was super frustrated with and had to like look up someone getting there was the floating rocks cave or whatever. So floating rocks and there's a cave there.
I used a guide for a lot of the end of it because for my version, like it was hard to get around. You know, like it was hard to find the right spots to like get into the water because with Robobo you'd have to like jump into the water from a dock. You can't just like jump in from anywhere. And so like it just got super time consuming and I was like, I can't figure out where I need to fucking go. So yeah, there were a few times.
It's a pain in the dick. And also nuke magic to open up. There was like 2 crystals on a screen. You had to open up one of them with magic.
Yeah.
And the magic for me was called nuke magic. What was it for you?
It was flare.
Lame.
Yeah.
Lame.
I know.
It's like,
I kind of wish the crystal would have like been called Nagasaki or something like that.
Oh, that's terrible. And there's one clue given. I would have never gotten this. I don't know how people played this game without the internet. One of the clues to open up one of the dungeons, I think, it's a palm and 8.
Oh, yeah. When you have to run and do a magic 8 or an 8 around the fucking palm trees.
Yeah. All a
Figure
guy
8.
says is like, let me give you a clue about where to go next. The clue is a palm and 8. And I was like, what? And I had to look it up, and it's like you have to go to a certain spot. There's 2 palm trees, and you do a figure 8 around them.
Yeah, the thing is like doing that on the touchpad is also a nightmare. And I'm like, fuck, dude, if I wouldn't have looked that up, I could have even done it and still fucked up because I had to do it like 6 times every time I went over there. I'm like, come on, just trigger. Like, it's a little sloppy, but it's still an 8.
I don't even know. Like, even if you took notes, like, you would have to, like, recognize that those were palm trees in the original Game Boy version.
Yeah.
And then, that's awful. It's like, do I have to get 8 crystals? Do I have to hit it 8 times?
Yeah. There's some crazy puzzles in here. So one of the other things, before we move on from the too far, that the companions do is they will randomly attack. So they'll kind of, like, help you out. And, dude, when I was doing the Metal Gear Solid part in this game, the fucking robot shot the guy right before I turned him to ice. Yeah, I had the piece of ice there, and then she just like, pew, and just launches it. And the one time she hits anything ever is the dude. And I'm like, oh my god, this game does not want me to fucking move on. It wants me to suffer in this fucking room, man. She does a little quick swivel and just pew, and then I just watches it just enters this guy's body, and I'm like, please survive. Nope, he's dead. You gotta leave the dungeon again. Oh god, the pain.
That's funny.
That fucking part. Oh man.
The AI, I don't know how bad it is for you in your version, but my guys were always like running around like idiots, just like in circles and shit. Like there were certain parts, like there was the snowman part, and I had to wait for the guy to be in the right section, because he would get stuck on a wall if I didn't like freeze the guy in the right spot. I had to be able to like manipulate him, because I can't pull a snowman in my version. Yeah,
same.
I can only push, so he had to be like 1 square away from the walls on either side before I could hit him. And I found that insanely frustrating, because then I would just like wait for him to be in the right position. And so like the bad guy's AI was awful. It was so random and shit. And I don't even think they go after you. They just wander around attacking.
And they just happen to hit you every once in a while.
Every once in a while they'll hit you. It's ridiculous, but I don't know, Schwartz. I think that's about it for gameplay. I had a good time. This game would be impossible without a guide. I don't know how it was done, but it was a fun little 10-hour Zelda ripoff.
Yeah. Don't ever fucking buy the version on the Play Store. Don't ever buy that version of the game. And if you do, you better go pure damage, because you got to kill that shit fast before it breaks your game. You gotta lay them in the dirt before they can start doing the move they love to do all the time.
I think that's probably pretty good advice. I would recommend my version with the Retron. Totally recommend that. But probably the best version has to be like your remake with the Vita.
Yeah.
I just assume the translation is better and you can kind of see everything. And it doesn't crash as much. I would assume, unless like you looked up Vita reviews and they were also like, fucking.
I did not, but I can't imagine that they would do that on the Vita. I can't believe that they would. I can't believe they'd have it on the Play Store still, shitty as it is. Like, fix the fucking game, man. Like, good God, 20,000 plus people have downloaded that fucking thing, and I bet you like 1/10 of them have actually been able to beat it, because the game just crashes all the time.
Was it with certain phones? Like, do you think it'd be better on iOS versus Android?
I don't know. I didn't really investigate further. But the nice thing about my version, though, is it autosaves. It quick saves every time you go into a room. So, like, if the game crashed, it would quick save me right as I was walking into the boss fight. So I just load it back up, press continue, and then I would be walking up to the boss again. Boss would have his little cutscene, then I'd fight.
Hey, you remember cheating on FF3, right?
Cheating?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, the game was kind of like remembered. This game remembered my cheap-ass ways, and it paid me back for it.
Let's see, there you go. I guess that's what it was. It's Android Revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the evil. It has infected.
It's Jeff Bezos is the evil.
The evil.
Yeah.
What'd you think about the game?
I actually do think it is pretty fun overall. I mean, it is clunky, and it has its problems for sure. And, I mean, the original Zelda was the same way, though. It was super finicky. You had to have things aiming at the most precise way possible. But in my game, I also had, like, in addition to moving people around, I could move. They wouldn't just have one stagnant direction. So, like, in Zelda, when you move to the right, like, your guy is facing straight to the right. Mine, he's not always facing straight that way. So, like, it was kind of fucking wonky that way, too. And it made the attacks kind of difficult. I was able to do some angled attacks from time to time, but it's just a clunky Legend of Zelda with a much better leveling system, in my opinion. And I do agree that most of the map is cut off for most of the game. I mean, you can't really go around to a lot of the towns and a lot of the areas until you get Robobo later on. And then even then, it's like it does become pretty linear, which is something that Zelda did not do. I mean, I did the last dungeon in that game, or the second to last dungeon, like as the third dungeon, and I was like, whoa, this game just got fucking hard, you know? And I was just convinced that Zelda was the hardest game of all time until I realized, no, that was the second to last dungeon. I should not have been there. This one, it's all very strung out for you, and it almost has that classic Final Fantasy thing where they sort of feign your freedoms in the world. They feign the open world. This one does it poorer than most, but it's certainly still there.
I don't know if that's a negative or a positive in comparison to the original Zelda, because I know with the original Zelda, like, I would not be able to play that game without a guide today. I know back then you would get your graph paper out, you would write down the clues from people, and you would basically play it like a tabletop game that you're playing on a screen in order to solve that kind of shit. I don't think modern gaming really has room for that, and I don't have the patience for that. And I don't think I would have been a person who would have beat Zelda back in the day anyway. In fact, that's very clear, because I didn't. I had it as a kid, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't one of those type of gamers, and so that just isn't for me. So I'm just glad I live in the age now where I can look up where the fuck to go next. But it makes it so that you don't have to look up as much, because it's pretty linear for most of it until you have to go find those weird-ass caves.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. But yeah, I had a good time. It's definitely like a flawed game, but I had a good time gameplay-wise.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I kind of want to see something done a little bit better in this style. Like, I loved the leveling up so much in this thing. And I actually found one room in the game, and it had a bunch of werewolves in it, and it also had a bed. And what I would do is I would kill all the werewolves, I would lay down in the bed, recover all my HP, and when I woke up, all of the werewolves would be back. And this is the only room in the game that I found that this happened in.
They're waiting on you to wake up.
Yeah, and so I got up, and I did that over and over and over again, and I think I gained like 13 levels in like 20 minutes or something like that. Wow. Yeah, so by the end of the game, I think I was level 59 or something. Which is like, yeah, it was insane.
I was like level 39.
Oh, wow. How much time did you take?
There was no clock.
Oh, okay. I
wish there was.
Mine was like 12 and a half hours. So it's a little longer than How Long to Beat said, but, you know, if I count the amount of times that I actually spent it when the game fucking crashed, it probably would have been like 15. But
yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's a fun game, and I think it's worth a playthrough for the story and the gameplay alone.
You want to talk about design and music a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the design of the game is goofy. And in my version, which is the original Game Boy version, it's also very ugly. On the original version, the enhanced graphics from the Retron make it look pretty fucking good. It's all kind of green shaded and shit still, but it's not like a washed out, gross looking monochromatic kind of thing. It's pretty crisp and stuff like that. So I really appreciate the fact that the Retron's able to graphically enhance things. And I assume if you played it on an emulator, which is basically what the Retron is, if you played it on an emulator, you might be able to get stuff with enhancements graphically. So in that way, you can make the game a little clearer in the version that I was playing.
So you had color? You had color in your version?
No, there was only one color, and it was they actually subdued the color in the enhancements on the Retron because I turned it onto its original look, and it was like it was disgusting looking. It was so gross, and I was like, oh, glad I'm not playing. But I mean, the original Game Boy was really limited.
Well, yeah, it didn't have color,
so you can't really like expect it to be great looking. I guess it does not look as good as the first Final Fantasy at all. Not even close. So I guess out of all the Final Fantasy games in the original version, it's the ugliest Final Fantasy game by far. Also, the creature design is bizarre. The first dungeon you go into is a bunch of like Halloween shit.
Oh yeah, that's all over the place. Yeah,
and you think it's just a theme of the dungeon, which is funny because I think I played it on Halloween and I was like, oh, this is oddly thematically correct for today. And you're fighting these pumpkins and these werewolves, and you keep going, and they just add to the creatures. They don't really like there's some sea creature ones in an area, but then after you go through like the sea creature cave and kill the crab, the next dungeon you have will have a few crabs.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, let's just reuse that design. Just make it tiny.
And a few bunnies, and a few werewolves, and a few jack-o'-lanterns. So, if we're going to, once again, compare it to Legend of Zelda, I would say the design choices of the enemies are really wacky in this game. I think for my version, as far as my graphics go, I think like the Lich was a pretty cool enemy, and the dragons were all pretty cool. Most of the bosses, like the Medusa and stuff like that, they were pretty cool looking. For what it was, but the random enemies around the maps and shit, it didn't make any goddamn sense. It was just goofy. It was real goofy.
Yeah.
And
it is.
I saw the opening screen for your version, and it looks like you were fighting Tony the Tiger as your first boss.
They're great. Like, it's like I've got like a fucking Cheerios like symbol. Like I've been sponsored by Cheerios, and I'm fighting Tony the Tiger in the pit. Yeah, it's weird. It is very, very goofy at times, and God, the rabbits were horrible because they would poison me, and if I didn't have enough magic to use the cure spell or the heal spell to get poison off, poison is the worst thing in this game.
Oh, it's brutal.
It
poison
chunks the shit out of you, man. And if you don't have, like, there were times where I died near the end of the game because somebody would hit me and I would get poisoned, and I didn't have any mana, so I would just die. I would just have to load my game up and kill them before they could poison me. But yeah, the design is kind of wacky in this. My version looks really good graphically, especially compared to the classic version, obviously. But Even then, though, yeah, I fought jack-o'-lanterns in, like, ice caves and stuff, and I'm like, it doesn't really make any sense as to why these things are here. And then there's, like, zombies, and there was no central theme whatsoever when it came to the monster designs, like, at all. And I'm like, why are there zombies, rabbits, jack-o'-lanterns, and these little, like, worms in here?
Invisible, squiggly Dragon Quest looking things that I never learned how to kill. I had no idea how to kill those things. There were some enemies you had to have a specific attack for, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm moving on. So that was like funny to me. Actually, the middle remake of this game, which is Sword of Mana, is that correct?
Yes.
I think I was accidentally calling it Dawn of Mana in episodes before this. Sword of Mana, it is supposed to be twice as long. It's supposed to have a lot of issues. And it's actually supposed to be kind of the worst version of this game, which we both chose not to play.
Yes.
But that version, I think, visually looks like the right kind of remake. Because yours is like that faux 3D thing that where they're still keeping the above head kind of viewpoint, but it's 3D remake totally.
Yeah.
And in that one, it's a 2D remake for the Game Boy Advance. And to me, that's like the right visual look. If I were to like decide on a visual look for this game, that's the one I would like to have. It's kind of like the PlayStation Vita version or PlayStation Portable version of FF4. I think is the best one.
Yeah, because I mean
Visually.
we have OG4, we have that version of 4, and then we have the DS4, and like the PSP one is so great looking.
Yeah, I would almost choose the enhanced 2D over the 3D personally, but I've heard of other, like, apparently that game is terrible, so, they did what they did. They made a 3D remake. I thought my version is really shitty looking, so I don't really have much positive to say about the graphics. But your version obviously is a more modern game. They made it so that they could have all the Mana games be playable on modern system, which is funny that they would have that opinion of the Mana games and not that opinion on the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah. That is funny, isn't it?
Yeah, that is funny. Or the Kingdom Hearts games, really. I think there's still like 2 Kingdom Hearts games that aren't on modern systems. It's fucking stupid. And music.
I thought the music was good. I mean,
the music is so fucking good.
Yeah.
The main theme as it starts playing, it was immediately great. Like I didn't have to like build into it or anything like that. The do 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 do. It's not Nobuo. It's someone else. I can look up the name in a second. But I thought that the Kenji Ito is the composer.
Kenji Ito.
Yeah. So there were certain parts of this thing. There's people staying here, and I stay up really late now. It's just my sleep schedule. There's certain parts of this game I wasn't able to play, like listening to the thing. But I decided to just listen to the soundtrack separately as I was playing. Like I put on headphones and listened to that in the computer. And I just gotta say, I love the music of this game. I think it's like the battle theme. There's only like 16 tracks on the soundtrack or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty small, yeah.
But I thought the music was... I thought it was beautiful. In fact, maybe some of my favorite music that we've hit in this series. So, like, Crystal Bears was I thought had a pretty good score, and that was the last game we reviewed. But this game, I think, is like, I don't know, from track 1, for me, it was just immediately classic. And the fact that the score at this far on into our show, having played through a bunch of these games, it's really exciting to hit one that has a soundtrack this good. I guess FF15 soundtrack is this good. But oh man, I wish this guy would go on to do some Final Fantasy scores outside of this.
Yeah,
just this game.
Yeah, so he did do the a bunch of the other Mana games. He did Chocobo Racing, Chocobo Dungeon, Romancing Saga, all three of those. So he's done quite a few games, but not really any mainline FFs at all, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But we'll probably play at least another few of his.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. His music is so fucking good.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like the main theme, the little beautiful do 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 do.
Yeah, God, and the music in the final scene when you leave her, it's great. It's very impactful. It's spot on. They got the Chocobo theme in there, which is super funny.
They do.
It was, I thought it was extremely well done. But like you said, it is a pretty small soundtrack. And one of the other companions, by the way, his thing is to change the music. That's what his useless ability was.
That's
it was the bard. He could change the song that was playing on the map, which I thought was kind of cool. But
That was the part of the game that I was actually listening to it separately, and I thought it was ironic and funny.
Oh, nice, yeah. But yeah, the soundtrack is pretty fucking good for this game, and it's surprisingly good. I mean, I don't really hear much about Final Fantasy Adventure, but with the soundtrack as good as it is, I almost find that surprising because
I would listen to it on its own.
Yeah, it's top notch.
In fact, I did that, and but one of the best scores in the series. Just on the pieces of music, any piece of music will start playing, you'll start humming it. It's that good. It's that fucking good.
Yeah,
I heard a complaint on your version from one of the reviewers saying that an annoying song would play all the time. I don't know what song could be annoying in this soundtrack, but
I don't remember anything annoying. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. I thought it was all great.
So the music is fantastic, and I think I had heard before that the music was fantastic in this game from a listener, and I agree. I agreed this time. We can agree. Anything else about music or design or gameplay you want to touch on before we move into questions, I assume?
No, I think that's good. Great looking game, on my version at least. Great soundtrack, good stuff. So let's get some questions.
Bad looking game, great soundtrack. Okay.
Questions for us. We would like to hear from you. To our forums or contact us on Twitter. Get on and ask your questions. We'll answer them in a week. This is the question segment. Ask and you will receive.
Question time. This is on our forums. We had 2 people ask us questions.
Oh my god, it's a miracle.
I know. And I'll check Twitter. Are you on the questions page right now?
No, I'll look at the Twitter though.
Okay. So I think I put a post out saying ask your questions, or you can do the hashtag UFFQ and check those. I don't know if there's going to be anything, but go ahead. This is Big Ass Flying Whale, who has a few questions for us. I don't think it's a problem on the Retron, but have you considered replacing the battery in older cartridge-based games before you start playing to prevent losing save data? No. Because I haven't ever had that problem in my life. Just because I wasn't allowed to have games for a long time. So my cartridge-based experience was very brief as a kid, and then now as an adult.
Yeah, same. I didn't really run into that at all. I mean, I played very little when I was younger, and that's when I had the Genesis, and I had the Super Nintendo, and all of those classic consoles. But now I've never had to do that. So sorry, we just can't really relate because we're not old enough, I guess.
Who is your favorite companion in this game?
I would go with the robot or Fiji, because like having that regen from her is pretty great, but also having the mana regen is pretty sweet too. And she would actually, or I guess he would actually attack. Sometimes it would fuck me out of what I was trying to do, but most of the time it helped. And I mean, the boss on top of the fucking tower with the robot was in, the robot actually got the final blow on, which I thought was pretty funny.
Wow. Yeah, mine was Fiji for sure. I called her Anne in my version, of course, but she just gives you your health. The other guy would also do the mana, and I appreciated that as well because that means I could use my magic to heal myself. I did the same thing you did twice, where I did strength and stamina almost exclusively, and then there was a point in the game where I needed to heal a little bit more because I was actually getting damage dealt to me, and I leveled up like 4 times on the magic, and so that my mana would be a little higher.
Okay.
Ironically, in a game about mana.
Yeah, barely used mana.
And the evil. What's your favorite weapon type?
I kind of liked all of them. You know, they all had their uses. I guess my favorite thing to do is to get the sword and do the spin move. So like any sort of regular like longsword and just do the like room spin was kind of my favorite. So I think I like the swords the most, but
mine was like a forward and backward /fly thing. That's what mine was.
I had that too. It depended on if I was moving when I pressed it. Because if I wasn't, he would do the spinner, and if I was, he would launch towards and then back from
if
where
I
he launched
wasn't pressing a direction, he would just do a normal attack. So that is your own unique thing you got in your version.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. My favorite weapon type was the chain for a long time. But then it stopped being useful like midway through the game, and you would use it just to solve puzzles. So I did get a blood sword, and using that on some of the harder bosses was really useful. So I would chop as much as I could, and if my health was over 200, I would do a save state. And so like my thing would be to dodge as much as I can, get as many hits as I can, just to bring up my HP again, so that I felt safe to like keep fighting. Even though other weapons would do more damage, like there's a dragon sword that does a lot of damage, and then Excalibur itself does a lot of damage. I preferred to use the blood sword on bosses just because I was getting hammered. So that was a way to heal at the same time without using up my very, very small amount of mana. So I appreciated that one. Did you guys ever play any other OG Game Boy RPGs back in the day? I played Pokemon for like 5 seconds. So as far as like original Game Boy, that's the only one.
Yeah, I played Pokemon as well. And that's it though for actual Game Boy. I was kind of Game Boy Color.
Advance, I have a lot.
Game Boy Advance time, yeah. I never had, the only one I ever owned was the Game Boy Advance. So yeah. I played some original Game Boy games on there, but it was like the original Pokemon, and that was about it. Because those were fucking huge when I was a kid, so.
Yeah, my brother-in-law stole my Game Boy Advance and sold it. Oh. And then gave me his Xbox in apology. Which was nice, because then I had Halo parties from then on.
Yeah.
But on the Game Boy Advance, I believe I had like 7 games. I had a Samurai Jack game, which I had never even watched Samurai Jack, but the game was fun. And I had a Bionicle game. I had 2 Harry Potter games, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which, by the way, for RPG players, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is like a really easy Final Fantasy. It's turn-based and everything. And I would say I probably had a couple others. Oh, yeah, Turok Evolution on the Game Boy Advance. I had that as well,
Jesus.
Which is a very fucking difficult game, by the way. At least it was in my remembrance. And also X-Men Wolverine Origins. I think I had a Wolverine game. It might not have been Wolverine Origins, but Yeah. Those were the Game Boy Advanced games that I had. No original Game Boy game, no original Game Boy Color game.
All right.
Okay, I got a few more questions here from Rude Rose. Gentlemen, you know why we are here. We have not much time, and a new game is here. Number 1, would you ever want to play this on a modern console and not just the Game Boy? My answer is, given Schweiss's review of the crashing on the phone, maybe if I decided to play it on the Vita.
Yeah, I wanted to buy a PlayStation Vita to play this game. I almost did. I'm super glad I didn't, because that's a ridiculous thing to do for one game, but I wanted it for the trophies. And part of me wishes I would have, because then I would have actually played a version of the game that made me not want to kill myself and scream out loud in the middle of the night with rage. But yeah, I'd probably play it again if it was remade on a modern console, not just re-released, because I don't trust that file. It's got some corruption in there. But the short answer is yeah, I would probably play it again.
The hero is officially called Sumo. What did you name them? I named him Joe.
Yeah, I kept it as Sumo.
Okay. Because your version had that. Number 3, as someone who has never heard of this game and has limited time to play games, is it worth to go out of my way to find this one, or can I pass and not miss much? I really enjoyed this game, and I liked my version a lot. I'm sure the Vita version is great, but obviously the Android version has some problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would, I think it's worth your time.
I do too. I actually think this is worth your time. I think it's better than some of the early Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to rank it when we do like our super ranking. But it's higher than FF1.
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion, it's got its own problems, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I think if you can pick it up for the Vita or even the original version, I think go ahead and do it. It's not a very long game, so your time constraints won't be too strained.
No.
In that regard, so just avoid the phone.
It's very short.
Yeah.
Or just listen to the soundtrack and not play the game. That's good too.
Yeah.
Number 4, does this game resemble Final Fantasy in any way, or is it just the title? It is really not resembling Final Fantasy, I'll be honest. Except for the Chocobo and the Chocobo music. And there's a Dark Lord, and there's a bunch of themes that we see later on in Final Fantasy games. So in that way, it's connected thematically, but yeah, I wouldn't like. You don't fight jack-o'-lanterns in the other things, and there's also not the evil. There are plenty of Dark Lords, though.
That's true. Yeah. I say it kind of resembles in a way, like in a very loose way, just with the leveling system. It has like some of the classes from Final Fantasy, but even then, that's not really enough to say it's a Final Fantasy or it feels like a Final Fantasy. Really, it's just Zelda with RPG elements, with more RPG elements than it already has.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't resemble anything else that the series has, which is kind of refreshing for us because we get to change pace. So
this is that weird game in between FF2 and the original Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
It's definitely more on the Zelda side than it is on the Final Fantasy side, but it is a fantasy game, and in my version, it looks like just an old RPG. So, kind of, I guess. So yeah, those are all my questions. Do you get any on Twitter?
No, there's none.
Okay. Well, let's get into audience reviews and legacy, and then we'll rank it. So this is a review, our only review. I think there was one person who had like a comment on it on Twitter, but it was when I announced that I had beaten the game.
Oh, okay.
Check that. Big Ass Flying Whale has a review for us, at least. Says, FF Adventure starts out real strong. The mechanics are fun, especially the switching of weapons to solve puzzles. I like how easy it is to level up and how you get to choose your bonus stat when you do so. The only super annoying mechanic is how the NPCs... Oh, this is true. How the NPCs talk to you when you bump into them. So in town, you have to desperately try to avoid those fuckers. That is funny, and that is true. You don't go in town very much, so I won't say it's like the worst thing in the world, but yeah, that is funny. The ask system is completely absurd, but delightfully overpowered when girl is your companion. That's true. Girl is Anne or Fuji, as it were.
Yeah.
The music, at least on the Game Boy, is ass. Fuck you, man. It's great. When your partner with the bard says he can change the track that is playing, it just goes from one shit trumpet to the next. Game Boy is capable of good music, so I blame the composer. I think the music is fantastic. For an 8-bit soundtrack, I think it's great. Whatever, Big Ass Flying Whale. You can have your opinion. The story is super tactical JRPG fare, although I did like the port where, spoiler alert, you have to waste Amanda. That is pretty grim. Sorry, you said part, and I accidentally said port. Overall, though, I wasn't compelled forward by the story. I got sick of the progression loop about halfway through and gave up. I had fun until then, but I started to get bored of the fetch quest / dungeon crawling gameplay. The Game Boy version was worth trying for me. I'm curious to hear how your feelings differ on the different versions.
Well, I mean, kind of already got that, but I'm glad he liked the game. I'm surprised he hated the soundtrack, though. That's kind of interesting.
Do 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 do. Ah, fuck, man, I love it. Okay. Didn't Felicia Nomiko or someone have something to say? I can't remember.
I don't see anything on your Twitter.
Okay, well, never mind then. But thanks, guys, if you said one. So yeah, Legacy of the Game, Schweiss. What do you think?
Well, I mean, for me, it's one that isn't really talked about too much, but there are those who, I think I heard from like Jake or someone, he's like, yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff in this game. Like, I think it's one that isn't necessarily forgotten. It's just not as popular, not as big as many others.
No, it was just kind of a little spin-off, like, early on. I had heard a lot about this game. It might have been this or Mystic Quest where people were saying the soundtrack was really great. If it was this one, yeah, I agree. The soundtrack is really great. I had also heard one of those games was really easy. It's funny to me, like, both everything I've heard about Mystic Quest and everything I've heard about this game are all just, like, smushing together.
Yeah, Mystic Quest is the one that's like a kid's Final Fantasy. Yeah.
So one of them's supposed to be really easy and shit like that. And I didn't find this one, like, super easy. I didn't find it super hard, but yeah, this game is kind of a little forgotten, but it was, I believe, the first spin-off totally of the Final Fantasy games. And,
oh, definitely, yeah.
It started the great tradition of using the Final Fantasy name to sell games.
That's right, yeah, the heartfelt tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, but I had never heard much about it before I started playing it, so I wouldn't say that its legacy is super strong. I feel like the later Mana games, especially, was it like Secret of Mana is the big one? The later Mana games definitely see around a lot more.
Yeah,
so at least what it started was interesting, and we are actually going to play all the Mana games that are here in the States anyway. later on in the show. So
That's right,
I'm excited to get to them.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they have to offer, especially because I know this is the only one that's even loosely connected to Final Fantasy, so I'm excited to see what kind of a universe that they created for that series.
Yeah. Okay, Schweiss, overall thoughts?
I think it's worth your time. I think if you can pick it up on the Vita, do it. If you pick it up if you do buy it on Android or iOS, just beware and make sure you do enough damage to kill shit before it glitches out on you. It's a ludicrous thing to have to say, but it is exactly what you have to do. So if you can get a hold of a good copy of this game, though, I would. I think it's worth your time. I think it's pretty fun. It is pretty clunky, and it certainly has its faults, but it has a great soundtrack, a pretty good story, and fun enough gameplay to keep you going for the 10 to 15 hours that it'll take you to beat it. So
I totally recommend playing this on the Retron in the original version with the Super Eagle graphic enhancements on. I enjoy that very much. I would love to play a Vita version of this game someday, just to try it out. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I mean, it's a super simple game, really old school. There's definitely things in it you're not going to be able to solve on your own if you're me. So keep that in mind. But otherwise, thought it was a great game.
Yeah.
Like just a fun, like not a great, not capital G great game, but it was a fun game. And worth the 10 hours, I think. And,
yeah.
A nice little like diversion in our track here of shitty stuff. So it was a nice bit of refresher to kind of get back to old school Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, in a way. And also Zelda.
Yeah.
But
also Zelda. So I said rankings like we have something to rank it against.
yeah, but we really don't. So
Oh, we really don't. I guess out of the Mana series, Schweiss, where would you rank this game?
this is definitely the best Mana game.
Oh, best Mana game.
And
we've
I'll
played
fight
so far.
anybody that says otherwise.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, you can find us at ultimatefinalfantasy.com. Our Amazon link no longer works, by the way, Schweiss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they canceled they canceled that program on Amazon.
oh, when?
No, like 2 months ago. So no more clicking through the Amazon links to support the shows. But we appreciate all those who ever did that. But there are other ways to support the show. You can go to patreon.com and support us there. I know. And there's like a PayPal link on our website. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for everything. I am at Joseph DeGaulier on Twitter.
I am at UFF Podcast.
Yes. And what is our next game? Is it Chocobo?
Chocobo, it's Final Fantasy Fables Chocobo Tales on the Nintendo DS.
Yeah, so I'm driving to Utah next Wednesday, and I shall be obtaining my DS and obtaining my Chocobo game.
You better stop by here and grab Mystic Quest, too.
Oh, yeah, I gotta do that. There's a ton of shit I have to pick up. I'm driving to Utah to pick up shit, and then I'm driving back down. So it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of 20 hours worth of driving in 4 days.
There you go.
Yeah. It's going to be great. We do have other shows on the network. You can go to Nude Clan to see Schweiss and others talk about just any video games, not just Final Fantasy. You can hear me talk with my friend Drew about Godzilla at the Godzilla podcast. And Schweiss is on A Tale of Schweiss and Johnson for a Few Chickens More, a Game of Thrones podcast, which, by the way, finally finished season 7 of Game of Thrones. And it was fucking great. And I'm so excited for the final season of that show.
Oh, yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I'm dying here. I want it to come out now.
I know.
Yeah, man.
So fucking good.
But yeah, I think that's everything. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Until then, enjoy the grind.